someone said, what's the difference between amateur golf and professional golf? And he said the best amateurs are, they're good. They can shoot 64, 65. That's fine. But on their off days, the best pros still shoot 72, whereas the best amateurs can let that blow out. The mindset is a lot of people go, oh, I've got to keep going and, I've got to flag hunt and turn this into a 64. And his thinking was, no, you just keep doing your plan. I've got to be more aggressive now. But he's like, no, just stick to your plan and positive variance and negative variance, and it'll level itself out. And so he was saying that's actually when you want to be more disciplined with your plan and just keep, not conservative is the wrong word, but keep playing smart and hoping that you get a bit of positive variance. But he said that's how the amateurs go, oh, I'm playing well, I'm going to go for all the pins today because I'm on. And then, oh, I'm playing badly, I'm going to go for all the pins today because I need to catch up. Whereas he was like, no. You just stick to your plan, and some days it's going to come off and some days it isn't.
All right, Jay, we're back again. After our big announcement at the end of last podcast, we're playing a tournament. We're on different sides of the world at the moment. It's 6 a.m. here and it's 9 p.m. in Dubai. So quickly tell us what your last couple of days have been like.
Yes, it is 9 p.m. in Dubai. I had an early start this morning. We've completed round one of the Asian Amateur Championship, which is at Emirates Golf Club in Dubai. So 2 days prior to today were 2 practice rounds, and then today was the first round. We've got 3 players playing in the event. Cooper Moore and Robbie Turnbull had morning tee times this morning, and then Josh Bye had an afternoon time. So 37 degrees in the heat. Got my umbrella up most of the day. 24,000 steps on the Garmin watch. And it's cool. It's a massive event. It's huge. It's run by the RNA and Augusta, and so everything's just top drawer, and it's an amazing event. It's cool to be part of.
I see. Thanks to you, New Zealand hosting next year at TRI Links. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that is really exciting. It was announced today, so that's cool. We hosted it, I think, in 2017 at Royal Wellington, and really successfully there. And so it's nice to bring it back to New Zealand, and what a venue Te Aroha Links, right, to showcase to the world what sort of place that is. So very exciting. A lot of chat around that today on the golf course, because I think it was 11 a.m. here when they announced that, and it's pretty, it's kept under wraps pretty well, that stuff. So it'll be really cool.
And just quickly before we move on to the main theme today, what benefit is that to the Kiwis, to New Zealand?
To New Zealand, well, I guess it's an opportunity for us to showcase golf in this part of the world. It's nice for our players, I guess, in a real micro level, for our players to play at home. We travel obviously a lot. As most people know, we're in the middle of nowhere, and so unless we're going to Australia, we're a 10-hour flight from most places. So nice to have that comfort of your own simple things, your own food, your own surroundings that make life a bit easier, rather than even just your own temperature. We were in Singapore a couple of weeks ago, and sort of same thing, mid-30s, really muggy, sweaty, and today obviously all over here in Dubai really hot, not as muggy, but so I think just nice for the players to be able to compete in that. But yeah, as I said, an opportunity for New Zealand to showcase. This event's televised all around the world, like millions of viewers, and so really cool opportunity.
All right, so today's theme, we are going to talk about the event we're going to play, which is the PGA Club Professional Championship, which is at Windrush.
Does it actually have a name? Is that the name of it?
I don't actually know.
I don't actually know either.
Something like that, though.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So I had a quick think. You told me it's been 17 years since you played a tournament. So that would have been about 2008. Is that right? And I started playing golf in 2008. So that's quite exciting.
That is very exciting. So Sadie wasn't born, and she's 16 now, and she wasn't born. Because I remember that Kitty was walking around pregnant, watching. Oh, yeah. It's thinking we have been together for 25 years. I think she's watched me play 3 holes of golf. And fair enough, quite frankly, I wouldn't watch me either. But those 3 holes were when she was, pregnant with Sadie, and that was who, as I said, is 17 next year.
That's very exciting. I moved down to Tauranga in 2014, so 11 years ago, to work with you at Tauranga Golf Club. And I think maybe bar 1 year, every year you've talked about, oh, maybe I might play a tournament next year. I might play a tournament. And I try to encourage you, try to egg you on, but you've never pulled the trigger. And then this came up. We talked about this a couple of months ago. And you said, oh, I might play a tournament. So in my mind, I was trying to stay positive and say, yeah, you should do it. But in my mind, I was also going, like, yeah, whatever. He's not going to do it. And then after talking about this, you sent me your registration link, and it had been accepted. And then it got real. And I was like, this is easy to talk about when I probably think it's not going to happen. So I got a little bit nervous. I took a couple of days to register to really make sure that I wanted to do it. So here we are. We're registered. What next? Where do we go from here?
Well, I guess one of the other things that we've spoken about is trying to do it properly and trying to do it justice. And I guess one of the big fears of to speak pretty openly is I don't want to look like a dick. Go and play badly and be judged. And the obvious excuse in the past has been, oh, I haven't got time, or I never play, and I don't practice. And then that kind of gives you that excuse to not have to perform. But I wanted to do it, which we've spoken about. I don't want to have that excuse. So while I've got limited time, and obviously, as I said, Singapore a couple of weeks ago, and Dubai for this week, so obviously no practice. But while I've been in the week between, I did do some practice. I practiced every day, and was pretty intentional about it. And then you and I had a game the day before I came up here. And so I guess that's the bit for me, is to go, let's do this properly and have no excuse. And then if we play, or if I play shit, if you play shit, if we play shit, it's actually not about that. But I didn't want to have the excuse that, oh, I didn't try, or I didn't put the work in, because that would be too easy. So now it's sort of, as you said, it's become real. I was bloody nervous playing with you the other day on a Saturday morning in Te Puke, doing on that 10th tee, what we teed off 10. It's like, oh hell, heart rate's up, and this is just a Saturday morning hit with a couple of dudes. But yeah, I have started practicing. What about you?
Yeah, same. I have played a couple of events. I played the Charles Tour events last year. But the Mount one, I found out I was playing the day before the tournament. I was doing a bit of practice, and there was a 2-ball at the back of the field, and someone said, do you want to play? Not someone, the tournament director said, do you want to play? And I sort of jumped in, and I actually borrowed your wedges. So the first time I hit some clubs in my bag was on the 7th hole, or whatever hole I started on. So preparation wasn't great, but I was really excited to play. And that had been 6 years, I think, since I played a tournament. And yes, there was no lead into that of expectation to play. Nothing I was specifically working on, or no dedicated practice. I was just hitting a few balls and playing once a week, and the results showed. But I didn't feel like I embarrassed myself. It was okay. But I did say to myself, if I play again, I actually want to dedicate some time to practice and feel somewhat prepared, and go in with a little bit of a plan. So yeah, I'm pretty excited now. I think the anxiousness of, like, is this real, is starting to wear off. It'll probably come back again a couple of days out, but I'm pretty excited. I'm also excited to do it with you, and do it with someone who's sort of going through something similar, and share those thoughts and ideas. And I'm pretty excited to see how you approach things. You've coached the national team for a number of years now, and you go through this process with the players. So I'm interested to see how you approach it now as a player, and if anything changes, or if you think, oh, why do I do that? Or if there's something you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to commit to that. That's too hard.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, even the practice, thinking about that, like, the assumption is if you practice, you'll get better. But I think you've got to be really clear around what you are practicing and what are you trying to achieve. Like I found the first couple of times I went and hit balls, because it was so new and I was pretty intentional about what I was trying to do. I had a clear plan, which I think is important. And then on maybe the third day, I had a couple of roughies, a couple of rough shots, and then thought, oh, I wonder what I'm doing. And I've actually made a rule with myself, which I think we've spoken about. We may not have, but I'm not going to video my swing,
You
because
did tell me that.
invariably what happens is I'll video it and I'll go, oh, I don't like that. And like, I'm sure nobody likes looking at their own swing anyway. It's like hearing your own voice, you know. So I've decided that no, I'm not going to video my swing, because I can just go down rabbit holes of trying to change stuff for no purpose whatsoever. But I had a couple of rough ones on the third session, and then all of a sudden you just find yourself, I wonder if I try this, and then you can just go down a bloody black hole. So I managed to avoid that on this particular day. And so yeah, like the practice is not necessarily for you and I. We're probably not going to be able to do enough and over a long enough period of time to have a massive influence. It's probably a nice thing to do and to get a bit of confidence and stuff and feel. But yeah, I guess the preparation bit is the stuff that we do a lot of, and it's easier for the national team, mate, because their ball goes where they're trying to hit it. Whereas, like I can have the best plan and the best intent, but not necessarily going to help because the ball's got to go there. But I still just want to go through that process and do it properly. And so some of the stuff that we do as a standard, I guess our standard operating procedure, if you like, when we're away, what we do, I want to implement that for you and I. So we talked about, like, hopefully, probably have to book that actually, but go up and have a practice round the day before. And, that may, at the tournaments that we go to, we have the golf course to ourselves to have a practice round. So we can take a bit of time, but our practice round on the first round here was 5 3/4 hours, which was too long, and there's a story behind that, but I won't tell you that one. But so you can spend a huge amount of time, whereas we might not get that luxury, but it doesn't mean that we can drop our standards. I think what it means is that we just go, okay, what's really important, what's going to help me play well? And as you said, there's things that you do that you're like, I'm not sure that's massively useful.
I think there's a key point you mentioned. Our ball doesn't necessarily go where we're aiming, but that's true for most people. So that's why I thought this might be interesting. Most clubs have probably just had their club champs where people have gone through I'll ramp up my practice and start working on things for those couple of weeks. But there might be some nice lessons. Hey, there might not be, but there might be some nice lessons out of this, because I think that's a big part of it, is having a plan. Just because your ball doesn't go where you want it to go doesn't mean you go away from the plan. You plan for that as well, and then you go, hey, it didn't go where I wanted, but I've got a plan. How do I either get it back in position or then adapt from here? So that'll be definitely part of my planning, is this is the ideal spot, but these are also all in play. What are my options from here? What am I going to do from that? So that I don't have to use that mental energy at the time. Like it's kind of easier if I've already made the decision about what I'm going to do, or I've already narrowed it down to a couple of things, rather than having to try and think of everything right at that time, because by the end of the round that could be pretty draining.
You play a lot of poker, or not sure if you're still playing a lot of poker, but you have played a lot of poker in your time, and you'll often talk about positive and negative variance, and I think that's really interesting. And in 2017, as I said, we had a Royal Wellington hosted the Asian Amateur Championship, and it was not long after Greg Turner and Scott McPherson had done the redesign of the course, and so we got Greg Turner in to the group to talk, and most elite players aren't aiming at many flags, partly because the flags are usually 3 or 4 meters from the edge of the green, so they're aiming a little bit away from that. And Greg Turner said something interesting. Someone said, what's the difference between amateur golf and professional golf? And he said, the best amateurs are, they're good. They can shoot 64, 65. That's fine. But on their off days, the best pros still shoot 72, whereas the best amateurs can let that blow out. And I think it's less so now with our understanding of tactics and stuff across the globe, not necessarily just New Zealand. But he said something interesting. He's like, some of those days, like you're 4 under through 9, and you've just had positive variance. You haven't aimed at those pins, but 4 times you've either hit a push or a pull and it's gone close to the pin, or you've held a long putt and you're 4 under through 9. And he said the mindset is, a lot of people go, oh, I've got to keep going, and I've got to flag hunt and turn this into a 64. And his thinking was, no, you just keep doing your plan. Like, I've got to be more aggressive now. But he's like, no, just stick to your plan and positive variance and negative variance, and it'll level itself out. But equally, he said, the problem he sees with amateurs is on their rough days, they might be 4 over or 3 over through 6, or 3 over their handicap through 6 holes, and then they'll think, I've got to push, I've got to make birdies to catch up. And he was like, no, today's not your day. You already know that, and you're going to have one of those days in 4 rounds at least. And so he was saying that's actually when you want to be more disciplined with your plan and just keep, not conservative is the wrong word, but keep playing smart and hoping that you get a bit of positive variance. But he said that's how the pros, so the amateurs go, oh, I'm playing well, I'm going to go for all the pins today because I'm on. And then, oh, I'm playing badly, I'm going to go for all the pins today because I need to catch up. Whereas he was like, no. You just stick to your plan, and some days it's going to come off and some days it isn't. And in many ways, I find that quite a freeing mindset. Like, it's quite a strong place to play from, I think, because you're just doing your job. And as I said, sometimes it's going to come off and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah. The round we played on Saturday, I posted the scorecards on
Yeah, thanks for that.
story, but
Yeah,
the data doesn't tell the full story, because I hold almost everything for at least the first 14 holes anyway, and gained, what do we say in the end, about 2.5 strokes compared to PGA Tour data. Gained 2.5 strokes on the greens, which is about 4 strokes more than I would typically gain. So the variance that day was on my side and reflected in the score being half decent. I kind of went in to that round thinking, I'm not going to try and make any birdies. I'm trying to avoid making bogeys. And the birdies will just happen by accident. And then they kind of did. I hit one to a foot where, that's going to happen. I hit a couple of 15 feet, hold a couple of putts, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow. But not one stage was like, I have to aim and flag here, or Jay's ahead, or I've got to protect the lead, or anything like that. It just sort of stuck to that plan. It was quite nice. And again, with the variance, that it's only a sample of one, but it was nice to actually stick to the plan the entire time and see it somewhat go relatively well.
Yeah, and I thought you played really nicely, actually, the whole every part of your game. The putting was an interesting one. I used my new putter, which I spoke about on the last podcast, and for whatever reason, we use Up Game, and my round gets shared with pretty much everyone who's in our academy, which is a pain in the ass, because the last thing I need them seeing is my data. So I got a few messages coming back going, oh, your putter didn't work or whatever. But I was saying to one of them, I had, I think, 6 putts between 5 and 10 feet, and I only made 2 of them, and I had a 3 putt on the first green. But I actually didn't think I thought I putted quite well, particularly at the start of the round. I was holding a lot, but it shows you the danger, I think, of looking too closely at one round's worth of data, because like a little bit of that variance, that 5 to 10 foot range can be pretty volatile. In fact, Cooper Moore was who I was saying it to, because he was giving me a bit of grief, and I was like, I didn't think I putted, apart from the 3 putt. I thought I putted pretty nicely. But today he started bogey this morning, but then played the last 16 5 under to shoot 3 under and sneak up into the top 10. But from 5 to 10 feet, he was world class. I think he held everything, and it just shows you it's such a critical distance. Like, it's a good iron shot at that level. It's a good iron shot that you convert for birdie, or it's a tough chip that you've had, and you get it to that 5 to 10 foot range and you save it for par. It's a real critical range, and some days you can not convert those, and others and because everyone knows that, like you think, geez, I played just as well last week as I did today, but I'm 5 shots better today, or I'm 5 shots worse, and you can't really pinpoint. It doesn't feel like you did anything different, but it's all that, and I think that's the danger. But yeah, I thought you played really solidly last week, long off the tee. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. One thing the data didn't show, Jay, is how nicely the ball's rolling off your putter. So you've been through a few putters the last few years. We've played together every now and then. You've had the broomstick in the bag for a while. You've tried different grips and different setups. But it looks relatively conventional with the setup, which is usually a sign you're fairly comfortable if you're not doing anything too funky. But the ball was rolling really nicely and the putter was moving nicely. And yeah, the data doesn't show that. So me looking at that going, oh, it's only a matter of time for 3 holes, a bunch of them. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be during this event, and I'll be like, oh, I thought we were pretty even going in, but smoked me.
Going back to that variant stuff that we were talking about as well earlier on, when we use our practice rounds here, we throw, I call them ghost holes, I'm not sure what they're called, but they're little bits of rubber that are the same size as a hole. And so we'll get the pin placements, say for this week, the Dubai Desert Classic. So we'll go back and have a look at what's happened to the Dubai Desert Classic, where have they cut the pins, because it's pretty accessible, that data. And then when the boys are playing, so one example would be a par 3, the Cook Island team were prepping in front of us, and so we know them pretty well, obviously. And so I just walked onto the green while they were putting, and I put the 4 pin placements out that we had for Dubai Desert Classic, and with the ghost holes. And so all the players can see on the tee is the flag that they're aiming at that day, which is invariably, because it's a practice round, it's nowhere near where they're going to put the tournament pins. And the players often will have a little bit of a side hustle, and so they're aiming at that flag. And I took a little video of this because it was really interesting. After they'd all hit into this into the green, Robbie was about, I think he was about 2 feet from one of the ghost holes, and Josh was about 4 feet from one, and Coop had a pretty good shot into the flag. He was probably 12 feet from the flag and about 8 feet from another one of those holes. But it was interesting to go, none of them knew where those holes were, but they get up there in their balls, and they weren't aiming there. They were aiming at a pin that was nowhere near it, but they get up there and they would have all had sort of kick-in birdies. And so it's nice to go, it almost helps to make that point, like just, it's like when you play those Ambrose events where they say you can putt to either hole. Like the amount of times in a round you get up there and you're aiming for the flag, but you get up there and you've stiffed it to the other hole, which, as you know, I think if we didn't have flags in the greens, we'd play a lot better. But in terms of the preparation, so that's quite a nice way to illustrate that positive variance and things can happen. And the middle of the green's actually not a bad place to aim.
Yeah, what is it about the need to aim for the flag? So I've sort of tracked all my data this year, and I think my green and regulations for par 3s is bang on 50%. So I would benefit from just aiming at the middle of every par 3, because I've been trying to use different targets and things like that, and using decade targets. But ultimately, if I aim at the middle of every par 3, I would have to raise that slightly, because I don't typically now aim for the middle of the par 3s. Where does that need come from, do you think, to aim at the flags? Do we think we're just better than we are?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I think it's like it's like the sirens kind of singing you in and trying to tempt you in. It's like a temptress, I think. You can't not see it either. And I think, if you think about how powerful our brains are, when you look at it and whether you're trying to aim at it or not, it knows you're there. So if you're using decade, and for those that, well, we won't go through what decade is, but it's basically a formula to decide how far away from the flag you aim. And so if the flag's front left, you're aiming right, which is obviously more towards the center of the green. But deep down, when you first start doing this sort of stuff, you kind of hope you hit a bit of a pull. Like you're sort of aiming it right of the flag, but there's that, oh, it doesn't matter if I pull it type mentality. But you actually can't do that. You've got to fully commit. And that's a real challenge. And then if you think about, well, most driving ranges or practice areas have flags in the green, in the grass, and we aim at them. So we spend, let's say if you did 10 hours of practice a week, you spend 10 hours aiming at a flag, and then you go, and then you go to a golf course and all of a sudden, oh no, now you're not aiming at a flag. So what are we telling our brain? Even subconsciously. So the challenge would be go to a driving range and try and just aim 2 meters right of a flag, 3 meters left of a flag, and really commit to trying to hit it 2 meters right of the flag and trying to hit it 2 meters left of the flag. One thing as well is the flag that's cut next to the water, say on a hole, if there's flags front right and there's water front right, it's actually a relatively easy shot because you're not aiming for that flag. So you can just kind of hit it left, obviously, but because no one wants to be short-sighted, like at elite level or tour level, the short side's pretty challenging because, as I said, the pins are cut 3 meters from the edge. But when there's water right and the pin's cut front left, now the short side is left, so you can't really miss it left. And now you're actually aiming closer to the water than you are when the pin's by the water. And so sometimes those shots are harder because it's like, oh, I can't really, and you sort of have a bit of a half-ass and you don't commit. So, and I think everyone can relate to that. And it's like the putt that you don't commit to. In fact, you hit one, right? On that fifth hole. Yeah. You're already complaining. You hadn't even hit the ball and you're like, oh no, as you popped up out of it because you just didn't commit to it.
There's a bit of context behind that. I've never had a bogey-free round, Jay. The closest I've had was my best round at Tauranga, and I bogeyed 6 and 7, the 2 par 5s. The only 2 bogeys, which was pretty disappointing. But I was bogey-free through, was it 13 holes or something, before we got to the 5th, because we teed off on the back 9. And I was actually really worried about my chip shot, because I typically don't chip it very well, and I chipped it to 4 feet. And I walked up, I go, cool, now I've got a really good high chance of getting up and down here. Whereas if I chipped it to 10 feet, I probably would have thought, it's okay, just hit a good putt if it goes in. But because I was close, and it's the first time I've felt some nerves or anything over a putt with an outcome on the line. And it's really hard to replicate that. So obviously, whether I shoot it or not is not going to make a difference in my life. It's not going to change anything. But it's there, and it's really hard to put that aside and still go through the same process. And the putt that I had was a sort of slightly downhill left to right, which would be my last choice of types of breaks.
Everyone's last choice, I think, that one.
But I did have a putt like that on the practice green in the morning and rolled it right in the centre, so it was nice to go, oh, this is just like the putt. I had a pretty clear image of seeing it, and it happened so fast I don't even remember making a putting stroke. I don't know how long my putting stroke was. It must have been pretty short, but as soon as I left the face, I sort of walked off. I was like, oh man. But it was really cool to have that, to keep that bogey-free round going.
Mm.
And yeah, that was exciting to go, oh wow, what happened? Okay, how do I step back and go, all right, let's get present again, stop thinking about what this outcome could mean or potential outcomes, and get into the present, what's important here, and yeah, try and step into that, drop into that part, because invariably we're going to go through some of those emotions during this event in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, 100% we are. And I think it's about knowing that too, Like, yeah, 100% we are going to go through, we're going to be frustrated, we're going to be pissed off, we're going to have doubt, we're going to have fear, we're going to have anxiety. John Quinn, who's a sports psych, he works with the Crusaders, but apart from that, he's a hell of a man. He has this thing where he said, and I don't know if it's Quinny's work, but it's certainly who I heard it from, therefore credit with it, is he'll say, to your point about trying to get present, he'll say, hear 5 things, see 5 things, feel 5 things. And Kazuma talked about that actually on one of our pods, like I think when he holed that putt to win that tournament and after he'd hit the bunker shot out to about 10 feet and what was going through your mind. And he just said, I just went back to, because he works with Quinny, just that, hear five, feel five, see five. And so what it means is look at the trees, see five things like look at the trees, look at the clouds, look at your putt ahead, look at the scuff marks on your ball, things that bring you really close. And then what do you hear? I can hear the birds, I can hear the wind, I can hear cars, I can hear my heart rate, I can hear my feet on the ground, my breathing, and what do you feel? I can feel the fabric of the shirt, I can feel my glove, I can feel the golf club in my hand. And so it's a really nice way to just recenter and be present. And then the next bit I think is about how do I want to be in this moment? So, and whether it's that part or I took Te Puke as an opportunity to, driving is probably the thing that gives me the anxiety. And there was a couple of tee shots where I hit driver, which I probably possibly wouldn't hit driver from a strategy point of view, but it was that, oh no, this feels a bit yuck. So I want to be someone who walks towards that, and this is an opportunity to practice that, whether it comes off or not. So I think sometimes I don't know, I feel a bit guilty if I've take a shortcut, if you like, and don't commit fully to the shot. And it might still look okay and it goes straight, but deep down you're like, nah, that wasn't. I don't want to be that guy. And so that part, like, the good thing for you is at least you're excited about doing it and stepping into that. Hey, this is a bogey-free potential round, which is pretty cool.
There were a couple of things as well. Was I'd putted well up into that point and made some putts I potentially shouldn't have to keep the bogey-free round going up until that point. So Varieds was going to get me eventually anyway. I wasn't going to keep holding them. So it wasn't too disappointing from that part, but I did recognise it. It's like, oh, this feels a little bit different now, and it was probably I got up and down on the 17th, which was our 8th hole, and I think I hold an 8-footer on the third hole, being our 12th, and that was when I started going, oh, this could be the round, this could be it, or I go bogey free. Because I had, like an 8-footer, and even though the best players are 50% here, so for me, I might be 40% at best. And then it rolled like dead centre, perfect speed, and I got quite excited. That's when I started thinking about that. So, it was cool to go through that. One thing I'll say to the hear 5 things, see 5 things, is a little bit like, okay, let's focus on your breathing. You really have to practice that, because if you only do it when you need it, then, like you've said before, your brain goes, oh, hang on, what's going on? Why are you nervous? Why are we breathing? And it almost makes it worse. So if you're going to do that, make sure you practice it when you don't need it. So your body goes, okay, this is just the process, this is what we do. Rather than going, oh, this is the biggest part of my life. Oh, what was that thing? Oh, that's right. See if I can hear 5 things. Your brain's going, why are we listening now?
Yeah.
Is this important?
Yeah, and that's I guess, I don't know, I guess in your training, where are you having, or in your practice, say, where are you creating those opportunities? Simon Thomas, he's a good man and probably doesn't listen to this podcast, but he says, are you practicing to feel better or to get better? And there's that element of wanting, if you're practicing your putting on the putting green and there's 20 people around, you want to look like you're holding putts, especially, like if you're a coach there, you don't want to look like a dude that can't putt, trying to run a business. But there's that edge of what pressure can I put myself under to take this to another level, as you say, so that then you can practice some of that stuff and know what what's important to you, what your values are, who you want to be, and therefore almost bring that to life in your game. Am I someone that walks towards this or walks away from this? And at Te Puke, they've got that little hole, right? I assume that's intentional, or is it? It's a half the size. Yeah. Well, I was having a bit of conflict in my head with that, because prior to playing, I did use it because I was just intrigued by it, to be honest. But prior to playing, I probably wouldn't use that because it's half the size of a hole. It's about the size of a golf ball. So, in fact, if I would more take a stance of Rich Masters type errorless learning work where I'd rather hit putts to a bigger hole and just constantly see the ball go in and hear the ball go in before I go out and play. But if I was training on a Tuesday night before my Saturday game, then I might use that small hole. But no, and again, like we said at the start there, it's about being intentional about what are you trying to get out of this. And I think sometimes just creating drills where that frustration comes into play can be beneficial because then you've got to work with it.
I use that small hole every week. Maybe it's why I don't putt very well. But I use it all the time. So the ball just fits in. So I don't putt from anywhere outside 3 feet to it. So I feel like you have to have perfect speed and line to hold it. Even if you get the line right, if it's got any speed, it just rolls straight over the top. And it lips out pretty easily, as you might imagine, being slightly bigger. So I use it to feel like I'm dialing in the speed over those short putts, to really feel like I'm hitting the centre of the hole. And I also go in thinking, if it's just missing, if it's just rolling, that would have gone in anyway. And maybe I give myself a few too many, that probably would have gone in. But I actually like it because when I go to the bigger hole, it actually feels huge
bigger
when
when
I go. But that wears off after a couple of holes on the course when you sort of readjust. But yeah, I do use the smaller hole. But I would recommend, I don't see many people using it whenever I'm out at the course. But I love that for that reason.
Yeah, I've not seen it before anywhere actually. So yeah,
it's always in the same place. I don't know if it's ever been changed.
As I said, like that, it's that conflict of going. I can see what you're saying. Like the whole, then everything feels easier after that. I can't remember who it was. Someone told me years ago, before you go to the first tee, just get the ball about a foot away from the hole and just hit 10 1-footers and into the middle of the hole, and be really intentional about listening to it rattle around in the hole as you pick it up. And like just from a confidence point of view, I don't know if it sounds like bullshit to me, but Scott, but I used to do it.
It's like I do wonder because there is variance, and if I use the PGA Tour data, if you're 8 feet, you got a 50% chance of making that. So whether I make it on the putting green or not doesn't matter, because I know that number still doesn't change. Just because I made a few on the putting green doesn't mean I'm going to be at 60% for this round. So if I miss a few, I go, oh well, I might make a few. If I make a few, it's like, oh well, I might make a few. But it's been really nice to probably understand that data a bit better and just accept that, hey, I'm just trying to hit this putt as best I can, and some of them go in, some of them don't, and then you hold like a 50-footer, it's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to do that again this year. So make the most of that.
How many, unless you're Kazuma, how's that finish at the DP World, right, when you hold like 130 feet of putts in the last 4 holes? How many days have we got left until our tournament? Like 2 weeks?
24th here.
A bit longer.
And it's the 10th. So, yeah, just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks and a few days.
The interesting thing was, like, from playing at Te Puke the other day, I kind of went, like, I had 76, and I sort of thought, probably drove it the best I've ever driven it in my life. Hit my irons pretty good, chipped pretty good, putted quite nice, and then went, shit, that shouldn't add up to 76. Like, there was, not being a dick, but I kind of think, I don't know about you, but nothing really glaringly obvious stood out of, I was just like, oh, maybe that's it, which is good in a way, because it means you can just sort of keep on practicing and do everything rather than try and fix anything. How do you feel like what's the priority for you in the next 2 weeks?
We have wedges and putting, because I don't think it matters how much I work on my driving. I'm not going to significantly improve where I'm slotting. I'm going to go from hitting 3 fairways around to 12 fairways around. So I think I'm going to take what I get off the tee in a way and go, can I get a little more comfortable with some yardages or more flights? Can I get a little more comfortable flighting the ball if it's windy and things like that? Because I feel like that's pretty poor at the moment. And in my short game, I might if I hit 10 greens, I'll be doing all right. Trying to hit a few more, obviously, but I'm going to have to chip 7 or 8 times, most likely. So do a little bit of short game stuff. And on Saturday, I putted without using a line on my ball for the first time in about 15
Yes, you
years.
did.
And had a good day on the green. So I'm going to explore that a little more and potentially keep practicing that to see if I see a noticeable change or if it was just a one-off where everything was going to go in on that day anyway. So probably come up with a really clear idea of how I want to play the course. So it's a course neither of us have played before. So that's probably my next thing to you would be, what's the next step for that? But yeah, come up with an idea of how I want to play the course and sort of take what I get, but do quite a bit of work on the short game and punting, because if I do hit balls, I usually hit a few balls on the range because it's easy, because there's a bucket of balls there and I can just whack them down and they get picked up at the end of the day. Whereas the short game feels like it takes a little bit more effort. Don't get as many reps in. Like I'll take 1 or 2 balls and then go and pick it up, or go and putt and then walk to a new location. Whereas it's easy with a range bucket, just drag another ball and hit it, and it feels like you're getting better. But
Interesting to feel better. Interesting you say about the planning and prep. I think with 2 things have changed in the last few years. Is one is our understanding of golf, almost like in a money ball type way around that variant stuff. And obviously technology, as I said, we use UpGame. You were talking about before we pressed record, I think you were talking about Google Earth. And so we get despite not playing Windross, we have a fairly good understanding of how to play golf and what that looks like. Then I think can go, Sam Jones, actually, I've got a clip, I'll share it, where he sort of talks about exactly that, like how much easier it is nowadays to prepare, and you don't really need, in the old days you probably needed 2 practice rounds because you had no way of seeing the course and you didn't really understand maybe the analytics of golf as much. But I think about it and go, for like a scratch handicap type player or a good player, if your sole purpose was to hit 12 greens at any course, let's say Kinloch being the hardest, all you have to do today is hit 12 greens. Do you reckon that's your strategy? Do you reckon you could hit 12 greens? And most of the time, all things being equal, most people go, yeah, I could probably hit 12. And you don't even hit it close, just hit the 12 greens. And like I said before, if you're not aiming at the flag, you'll probably hit it closer anyway. So then go, okay, if I hit 12 greens and I make 3 birdies, I'm 3 under for those 12. And of the 6 I miss, if I get up and down 3 times out of 6, you kind of go 50%. It's okay. That's an even par round. And there's a bit of a threshold with 12 greens, I reckon. Like, I did some research for one of our teams a few years back, and the only player who'd shot lower than 70 and hit less than 12 greens was Kazuma, who shot 66 in one round with 10 greens in reg. But for the most part, 12 greens is almost like the minimum buy-in. Yeah, if you're going to shoot a low number, you're probably going to hit at least 12 greens. And then, so think about Windross for you and I, like, forget shooting a score. Like, if I just hit 12 greens, what would that look like from a strategy point of view? And do I think I could do it? And I think that can shape some of the decision making. And so you almost have 18 individual holes where you just go, right, my goal here, best way to hit the green is to hit the fairway. So it doesn't actually just come down to your approach shot, because you go, if my goal, like the first hole, think of a dog leg, a dog leg hole. And so you and I, the obvious one's the first hole at Tauranga. If your sole goal was to just hit the green in regulation, you'd probably just hit it to the corner and flick a wedge onto the green and go, sweet, job done.
I'm trying to hit about 200 metres off the tee, beat myself 90 to 100 metres.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the best chance, I think. Yeah.
Pretty simple hole. Looking at it like that,
average over
right?
those compared to trying to rip driver over the trees and hit a couple of the penalty area, a couple go behind trees. I think your average is going to be far better than the 200 metres off the tee.
Yeah. And then, yeah, that little bit of, I think you said before, around the cognitive load. Like, it's stress-free, right? Like, just middle of the fairway, middle of the green, 15 feet, roll it down to a foot, tap it in, rather than hit it into the trees, hit a punch cut out to the front left bunker and hit a bunker shot out to 6 feet and hold the putt for par. You got the same score, but you've used some serious mental load. So I reckon that'll be my plan. Is like, what do I need to do to hit 12 greens at Windross? And to use the Richie McCawism, just after every hole, it's sort of start again. It's one of one. My job is just hit the green here. What do I need to do?
So, without playing the course or knowing the course, or potentially we won't play until the day before, how do we go about preparing for that? What do we use?
So, up game? Is that what you mean? Like, what do we use? Stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
what are you going to use?
up game, which has a Google image of every hole, and there's some really cool features on up game where I can overlay my drivers from Te onto, if you've played, that's the only round I've played, so it's all the data I have, but like I'll show you an example of it we can share of if I put my drives on the first hole at Windross from Te where would they go? And obviously there's things like, wind and what have you, and then there's a cursor where you can, because it knows where I was aiming from the stats, and I'll put it in, and it'll say, if you aim there, there's where your drives would have gone, and then so you can move that cursor a little bit to the left and go, okay, so I probably need to aim at the left-hand bunker off this tee because I've got a bit of a cut, and that'll put the balls in the right-hand side of the fairway or whatever. So you can kind of do that to get a sense. They have a feature coming soon, which isn't quite out yet, where they'll have three rings, three sort of distance rings where you can drag that and go, this fairway is 25 meters wide, 45 meters wide, 65 meters wide. And you can, from your data, you can go, oh, well, I can only hit it in that 45 meter gap 50% of the time. Am I willing to take that risk? And you might go, oh, if the pin's at the front, I'll have a crack, but if the pin's at the back, I'll leave it alone. So stuff like that. In these tournaments that I am away with, we'll get the pin placements the night before the round. So we've got round 2 pin placements already, and players have a really detailed yardage book. I'll get a photo of one tomorrow. And so the night before, like, the first green, the greens are all gridded, and the players will go on and go, okay, it's 11 yards on and it's 3 yards from the left, so they'll put a little bit of a mark in their book. And just by doing that, they'll then start going, okay, well, that front left bunker's dead, I can't hit it there. And, whether it's probably not even a conscious thought, but they'll just like they'll notice things and go, oh, I've got that slope at the back, I could use that. I'm probably coming in with 7-iron. The wind's going to be a northerly. Like we use a thing called, there's a few apps I use Predict Wind. I think there's one called Wind Guru. So we'll go through and go on the hour northerly until 10 o'clock, and then it's switching to a nor'wester, and then it's going to be a nor'wester, and then it's going to switch back at 1 o'clock. And so you write that in your yardage book, because you're not allowed to look at that stuff when you're on the course, but write that down in your yardage book and go, you get a fair idea that when you're a bit unsure, okay, so the 6th hole tomorrow, it's going to be a nor'wester, probably going to be playing into the wind. That pin's going to be a bit tough to get to if I hit driver and I'm too close to the green. I can't get enough spin on it. So because it's downwind tomorrow, I might just lay back there. Or because it's downwind, I reckon I can get onto the green, so I'm going to smack driver. So you can do some of that stuff first. And yeah, as I said, stuff like up game makes it really helpful. I can share. I'll try and make a thing of that, of a screen recording or something.
Sounds
I'm a
good.
bit of a boomer.
Nice. You'll figure it out, I'm sure. Or some of the boys actually all saw your data. They'll probably be able to do it for you now.
Yeah.
They've all looked at you around.
Yeah. Ryan Chisnell actually sent me. Ryan Chisnell, we used to call BMW. Like, he was the ultimate driving machine, and he was lovely. He didn't say anything untoward. And I said to him, oh, Chizzy, I drove it like you. And he said, you drove it like the old me, Jay, and unfortunately I'm driving it like the old Jay. So, poor Ryan, I hope he isn't, because that's a horrible place to be.
That's rough, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, have you got any closing thoughts before we move on from here?
No, just that it's, well, actually, one thing probably that got me a bit more kicked in, I was going to say at the start, my wife's into the high rocks stuff, and what I've read, what's probably inspired this for me in many ways, apart from just talking about it with you every year, um, it is watching her and her mates sort of train together and share stories about, their what their training's like and what their run times are, and they're exploring different things, and got a running coach and doing hill work, and I was like, oh, I want something to. Oh, I certainly don't want to do high rocks, and the less running I can do, the better. So in many ways, part of this journey was about going. It's nice to have something to kind of be working towards, and it's really cool to be able to do it with you and share and kind of go, like you and I were saying. I was a bit nervous at Te Puke the other day, and I was hitting some balls, and there were people on the 11th fairway. I was a bit conscious that don't hit any shitters because like all those little things. But so that's been nice, to have something to kind of look forward to. Like you see people, people have their club champs or their pennants and their pennants finals. But as a club pro, you're kind of out of that stuff. So that's probably the last thing to say is like so far, and I mean, who knows? Who knows? We should do a podcast actually after the practice round, and then after round one, and then after round two, just to kind of, and straight away, like while you're still a bit, like those hot and cold reviews, the hot review when you're still a bit pissed off and you can't believe you just three putted. Some little snippets that might be quite interesting.
Great, let's do that. Nice.
Another stupid thing I've said, Scott, that we're going to do.
Yeah, I love it. All right, with our tradition of finishing with a little game at the end, I've got one for you today. You're going to try and build the perfect golfer. You can use any golfer from all time. The only thing you can't do is use a New Zealand golfer. Because otherwise you might be a little biased. You're like, I know that guy, and yeah, he's pretty good guy. So build your all-time golfer. Can't be a Kiwi. And we're going to pick different parts of the game. So the first part of the game, who would you have to build your perfect golfer, the best driver of the golf ball?
I'm going to go away from modern day players, partly because the modern day players are amazing. The obvious one that springs to mind is, I think, Rory. But let's flag them because, and I'm going to go. Mine are going to be pre-2000s, as in they were, yeah. When the ball was different and the heads were different. I know I sound like an old bugger saying that, but so I would say Greg Norman would be my driver of the ball. Are we doing this? Are we both doing this, or is it just me?
It's you this time. Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Greg Norman for my driving. My short game.
Oh, yeah, go. You keep going. That's it.
Well, no, because there's some obvious ones. Like my short game would be Seve Ballesteros. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. You called your dog Seve, so there's a bit of love.
Yeah, a lot of love there. I know we said no Kiwis, but the reason we said no Kiwis were because of the potential bias. But if we could have Kiwis, I'd have Bob Charles as my putter. Can I have Bob Charles or not?
Yeah. He's a Kiwi, but...
Yeah, okay. Well, if not Bob Charles, Ben Crenshaw.
Okay. You're probably not going to offend anyone in the national squad by choosing Bob Charles.
No, which is what I thought. Iron play, I would have to go with Ben Hogan. So what else have we got? Is that it? I got tee shots, Greg Norman.
What about wedge play?
Oh, wedge play. Someone came to mind straight away there, and then it went straight out the other ear. I have no data to back this up. This might be a horrible call, but I'm thinking Tom Kite.
Okay, Tom Kite. There we go. I'm going to try and find some data to see how accurate that is. But this is your perfect golfer, Jay, so it's not wrong. And the last one, which golfer's mental game or mindset would you have? Now, this is pre-2000, so Tiger's pretty young in his career. He'd be the obvious choice, I think.
Yeah.
Around that 2000, just after, but pre-2000, who are you going with?
I would go with Jack Nicklaus. And because I sort of thought around approach play, it would be hard to go past Jack Nicklaus. Greatest golfer of all time. So
is he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only way you can probably measure that is by majors won, I'd say. And given that he's won the most majors, it's pretty hard to argue. I think. I don't know about you, Scott. Um, so like hell of a career. Um, spanned 20 odd years of winning majors. So I would say, given that I didn't have him as in any of my categories, but I think he could potentially top all of them. So I'd say from a mindset point of view, Jack Nicklaus.
It's a pretty good golfer right there.
Yeah, I would think so. He'd kill it.
Cool. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
Well, all the best for
no,
round 2. What's that?
no bites on the Jack Nicklaus, greatest golfer of all time.
Well, I mean, how long you got? You look pretty tired. Keep going. Jack definitely stayed injury free for longer than Tiger, which is a big part of being a professional athlete, is managing your body and doing that. So Tiger potentially didn't do that very well. But in terms of moving the needle and how the game changed because of one player, Tiger potentially had more of an impact on that. No one Jack-proofed a course.
What was that last thing you said?
No one Jack-proofed a course. Plenty of people Tiger-proofed a course.
Yeah, yeah. Arnold Palmer had a pretty big influence on the game.
That's
But
not
I
Jack,
would no. Well, that was my point. I wouldn't say that he's the greatest player of all time. So influence on the game.
Yeah.
Not sure that's all that. Yeah. Got anything else?
Yeah.
No.
Well, he had 14 majors in 2008. By the time 2008, it seemed a given that he was going to win
Yeah.
more until the injuries hit, which, again, that's a big part of it. So managing your body and that. And he clearly didn't do a great job, potentially hearing about some of the Navy SEAL training and stuff he was doing, putting his body through. But yeah, Jack definitely had the longevity, which is a tick in that box. I also didn't grow up with watching Jack, so that's a big part of it too. Kind of like that.
Neither did I. He won his last major in
Like the Michael
'86,
Jordan
I
debate.
think. Oh, I did watch Michael Jordan, but I think
so-
Jack won his last major in '86.
Yeah.
Which is
So
before
you were
I was
watching
playing.
golf. I didn't start watching golf.
No, I wasn't watching golf.
playing
That was my
till
point.
2008, so anyway, well, it's a debate that we probably can't ever resolve. So
No, and then the only way you could resolve it probably
it's nice
is
to
to look
know.
at majors
It's nice to
won.
know that we have different opinions on the greatest golfer of all time.
I mean, yeah,
All right.
pretty cool. But how would you measure it? If you were going to measure it, you'd only measure it in one way, and that's majors won. So
What about total professional wins?
who's got the most? Is it Tiger? Who did he pass? Sam Snead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's got the most professional wins in a row?
Was it Hogan or no? Was it Bobby Jones or someone like that?
No,
15
Walter
in a
Hagen,
row or
I
something
think.
crazy.
I think it was Walter Hagen.
Crazy.
Crazy. 15 in a row. Now tell me you think Tiger's good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Right. Too good. I'm going to go to bed because I have an alarm set for 4:30.
Beautiful. What's that? 6 hours away. Nice. All right. Thank you, Jake.
Too good, brother. See you, mate.